Yeah, thank you very much. I know we're pressed for time. I think I really want to get something out of Tammy because yes, we've had our chat pre-meeting. I know that yes, you're high profile um, in your day job, but you have also mixed business with it, and your story may be very inspiring actually to other women, younger, older, in terms of the gene thing that you've done. I would like you to touch on that quickly. What
And
inspired
why?
you to what inspired you to get into the business, the challenges you faced, and the opportunities that are available. So, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Yeah, very quickly. So I mentioned earlier that I started my own gin business last year, and it came from very much that laddish culture of going to the pub after work. And I remember just when I started in the civil service, I was just really nervous. I didn't feel comfortable going out with colleagues after work. But when I did start going, it was like you have to go if you want to meet the people that hold the checkbooks, right? But when I would go, I would pretend my lemonade was a gin and tonic, and I did that for many weeks, just trying to fit in. And then when I did get my contract extended, I remember just trying a gin and tonic, and I absolutely loved it. So for the last sort of 6 years, when I do travel, I get 2 souvenirs, one a bottle of gin from that country and one a book by an author in that country. And about 2-3 years ago, I had the idea of starting my own gin brand, but imposter syndrome was just like, yeah, I can't do this. Where am I going to start? How am I going to fund it? And then with COVID and everything last year, I was like, I'm just going to give it a try. If I fail, at least I got it out of my system. And even when I was done with everything, it still took me 2 weeks and a therapy session for me to actually press the launch button, because I was just like, who's going to buy it? What if nobody buys it? And my younger cousin said, don't worry, I'll be your first customer. So as soon as I went live, she was the first person who bought my bottle. And it's been a few months, and I think it was Rolake mentioned this, and since I've launched in October last year, men have been very instrumental in just guiding me in terms of through mentorship. So I've got a mentor, a number of mentors within hospitality and within the sort of entrepreneurial industry, who have sort of coached me and sort of asked me questions to help shape the direction my business has gone in. And now I'm in a number of restaurants in Mayfair, and this has been through sort of introduction and being encouraged to just reach out to some of these high profile restaurants and bars. And in terms of future opportunity, my plan is to try and get as much women in the industry as possible. My current supply chain is just over 70% women owned and women led businesses. My team is made up of women, and I'm hoping, in a year or so to start sort of like a pipeline of women graduating from, whether it's after 18 plus, which is what we have after your sixth form or college in the UK, and start considering the beverage industry, especially Black women, especially women from underserved communities, to consider a career in the beverage industry.
All right, thank you, Temi. Dr. Dr. Igbomusa.
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I just want to appreciate the guests as well. This has been a fascinating conversation this evening. I have one very quick question, and it borders on education. Now, in the part of northern Nigeria, the stats for girl-child education is still very low. How do we increase awareness here for education? Because as we speak, we know participation in governance will require some level of competence, as Rolake captured. And we cannot really get to that point of competence at a level of governance where we have close to 35–40% of our women not educated, especially in the northern part of Nigeria. What should we do about this? As women of power, we want your voices here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Igbomusa. Starting with Rolake, then Benedicta and Temi. Quick, 1 minute each, please, so that we'll keep.
I think education is extremely important, and you raise a very important point. Save the Children, an organization whose board I sit on, is doing quite a lot of work in Northern Nigeria on that. But I think we need to find a way to influence culture, because the reality is we can create these programs in schools, and if the fathers don't send their daughters in the north to school, or if legislators, people who are meant to be in national positions, keep marrying young teenage brides, then we have a problem. Because what it sends out is a signal that education is not a priority. But I think the other thing is, in this day of technology, we need to look at innovative and unorthodox ways of educating, particularly in those communities and villages that still have very strong traditional structures and may not be used to the formal education. And more importantly, we need to educate parents. And this goes across board. It's not just a Northern Nigeria issue, although there seems to be a significant underrepresentation of female girl child in Northern primary schools, early education. But I think parents themselves, we need to make the economic and business case for why a father in Borno State should find the courage and wherewithal to send his 7-year-old daughter to primary school and not marry her off by the time she's 10 or 11. And making that economic case and the value educating her will bring to the family, I think can help to change the narrative. So these are some of the programs and policies that I think we need to start seeing. And the more national will we have around these things, particularly at leadership level, the more we can hope to influence regions and cultures and villages and so on. As you know, they say it takes a village to raise a child in Africa.
Oh, thank you, Rolake. Benedicta, 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Sota. I completely agree with Rolake. And the question that the doctor asked is not peculiar to the North. I'm not from the North, but I was a child bride at 15. So it cuts across board. So we need to be raising awareness. We need to be designing policies, educating parents about why they should send their children to school. So again, it is something that has to do with willpower. Here in Edo State, for the first time, we're having a governor who is actually empowering women and giving women the opportunity to be, to be what they want to be. I'll give you an example. In the last political dispensation at the local government level, we had 3 female out of 18 local governments. We had 3 females that were local government chairmen. It has never happened in the history of Edo State. This is because the person at the helm, who's heading Edo State at this time, recognizes that women have something to contribute. He said it during International Women's Day, the governor of this state, that the fact that we're having crisis in the Edo State House of Assembly is simply because there is no woman. There is no woman in the Edo State House of Assembly. So that goes to show you that if we have leaders who can actually discriminate positively on behalf of women, we can go very, very far. This is not just a northern thing. It cuts across board that the girl child is not valued, and we need to be raising awareness about that. I've had to write a book. This is a book I wrote detailing, chronicling my experience so that girls that may walk the path that I walk can learn and benefit from where I have been and where I am today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Tammy.
To answer your question, and I think it isn't like Benedict said, it isn't just in the North or exclusive to Nigeria. Even in the UK, we have a gender poverty, a gendered bias in terms of women, and going on to higher education. And what you can see the correlation is poverty, right? You cannot detach the role children play in households in terms of bringing additional income to the family or additional labor, whether that's through marriage or through working on farms or whatever. So I think there needs to be increased opportunities for people to get out of poverty, and that's through job creations, that's through investing in entrepreneurship, that's through grants and funding. So what you need in place is an economic structure that has a way of elevating people out of poverty, and that's at local level and at national and international level, because I've been fortunate enough to go to the US and India and all of these countries, and the fact that, you know, girls do not finish their education, whether it's primary or secondary, is global, but there is a strong correlation between that and poverty.
Thank you.
Economic poverty.
All right, thank you, Temi. So what will happen now is that each of the speakers will give their closing takeaway. So starting with Benedicta, and then Rolake and Temi. Benedicta, 1 minute, please.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been a fascinating time for me. I've learned from these female leaders that you brought on this evening. So for me, like Tim, you said very beautifully just now, we have to look at, you know, opportunities that help. Can you hear me?
Yes, go on, please.
Oh, okay. Opportunities that help to elevate people from poverty. I would say education and entrepreneurship, there are two ways we can do that. Personally, if not for the education I was exposed to, I'll probably still be at the margins of society. I won't be here talking to you tonight. So I really think that one way to break the cycle of poverty is to make sure that education is accessible to everybody. And for those, because it's not everybody that has, you know, the wherewithal to be educated or have the interest and things like that. For people like that who fall through the cracks, they should be encouraged, you know, through entrepreneurial skills, so that they can get out of the shackles of poverty. This is whether males or females, as a matter of fact. I know that it is predominantly females who suffer this, but looking at our male children today, even in Nigeria, they are also endangered species. We're seeing them now going into all sorts of terrible things, ritual killing, armed robbery, all sorts of things. So for young people, we have to have policies that help them integrate fully into society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Benedicta. Rolake. If you can unmute, please.
Sorry, Esosa, I didn't hear the question.
No, not the question. You are giving your closing remark.
Okay, I think in closing, I would just say that we have a long way to go. We can't afford to be complacent. And we need to work together. We need to work across the divide. And more importantly, we need to sensitize our children, our families to the reality of gender disparity. And in our own sphere of influence, in our own little way, we need to be the change that we want to see. Thank you.
Thanks, Rolake. Temi.
Yeah, I think Michael Jackson says it best when he says, you know, you start with the man in the mirror, right? And it's what are your biases? If you just start with working on your own biases, identifying them and working on them, I think that is a step towards, you know, something big. I think sometimes when we think about creating change, we think about the bigger picture, but in essence, it starts with the individual. If you take your best self into every community, every space that you occupy, you unknowingly, you know, encourage and inspire others to do the same, right? So maybe you can't change policy, or maybe you can't change legislation, but what you can do is vote at the election next year. And what you can do is consciously vote for a woman during the elections next year. You know, get your PV, get your card and make sure you vote. And wherever there's a woman on that ballot, tick your name next to her. So I think, again, change doesn't have to be grandeur. It doesn't have to be on a large scale. It just starts with the man in the mirror.
Thank you, Temi. Before KD gives his closing remark, Benedicta said we need to create opportunities to elevate people from poverty and to encourage those who have already gone through the cracks with entrepreneurial skills. Rolake has said we have a long way to go. However, we need to work together and sensitize or incentivize our children. And Temi said work on your own biases, look at the man in the mirror and help. Do your encouragement, take responsibility. So I would now like to call on Kede to give the closing remarks. Kede.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Let me first of all take this opportunity to thank Temi, Rolake, Benedicta, and Susan for a very interactive session. I took a lot out of this, and I'm sure that when we finally put out our videos, there'll be a lot of takeaways. I think most importantly, it's good for us to have this conversation. It's helpful that we are able to capture genuine successes of the ladies here today that have really, really moved ahead in their careers. And I'm sure it's not age specific, it's not gender specific. It's something that benefits everyone. And I'm sure the gentlemen who are also here will agree with me that it's been a very good evening of exchange of information. Yes, there are biases, and I like to say that I am a champion, looking at my own background, for that I can see, visualize with Benedicta, because my mother was once a vice chairman of Oredo Council, supported by my dad. I have sisters who are lawyers, so equal education. I have one daughter, same opportunity with her older and younger brother. So I understand from both sides how it is, and we work very hard as an organization to promote women and to ensure that their voices are heard. I really support them, and so this is part of our conversation. Once we finish, we will edit and then we will disseminate the videos. So thanks very much. We're way past our time, and so I don't want to speak a second much more later.
Okay, thank you very much. Please, before you leave, just to note that if you want to give your experience, please, we are on @Nigeria Magazine on Twitter and Nigeria_BM on Instagram. So give your experience. But thank you very much, and thank you to our speakers. We'll be back soon, and have a lovely, lovely week. Bye, everybody.